Big Sil's Power Hour. Appreciate you coming up, man. I thank you so much. Please hit the like button. Thank you, Barrett Brooks. Man, I love that dude. This is a part of the program that I hate. I know some of you think that I wish shit like this to happen so that my takes or the pathetic comment of takes and spins or whatever turn out to be true. Actually, if some of you who have been following me for 30 years know me, I hope to be wrong like I was about Lamar Jackson. I'd rather have a guy like Lamar Jackson prove me wrong and go, wow, that's something special. That's great. I get more satisfaction out of that. I'm not here to wishful think anything and negatively on anybody. Okay? But that being said, I told you Nakobe Dean would never make the season. He would never play a full season. He's been placed on IR. It ain't happening, ever. He'll never fulfill his destiny in Philly. You need to draft another linebacker. He's unreliable. You know what the sad part about that is? You know the sad part, true sad part? He's probably a fine ball player. He's probably good. But he'll never live up to his draft of a third. This is going to be your second, third round draft choice at linebacker cut or waived consecutively. The Philadelphia Eagles cannot draft linebackers. You're terrible at it. That's not an opinion. And when John says Trotter, oh, you're thinking of the kid at Clemson. I like the kid. Their defense has played better the last 3 weeks. Okay? Anthony, that sucks. Look what hey Tone, put what Anthony just said. Put that up there for me if you can, please. Anthony, that sucks. That really sucks. Shit. I mean it with all my heart. That sucks. And Philip goes, I think that'll change. What makes you say that? You drafted him hurt. He's been in a walking boot or whatever his entire Eagle career. This guy spent more time on crutches than an NFL field. And yet you think that'll change. What gives you that notion? Hope? M. Reyes goes, year 3 will be his breakout year? How can you say that he will have a breakout year when he can't even put consecutive games together? Just being healthy. Again, see, Tone, everyone's missing it. I'm not talking about his ability. I'm just talking about his availability. I'm not criticizing the kid's play. How would I know? How would you know? You don't know. The only thing you can gauge him on is that kid is just not a healthy football player. He's not built for the NFL. He's just not. That, in other words, is a miss in the draft. That's a miss. And plus, you asked him to do things he's not capable of doing. You put him in the middle of the football field with massive traffic, Jesus, didn't you think at all that maybe if you put him on the perimeter on the weak side, he'd see less contact and maybe he could use some of his athleticism? But you put him right in the middle of all that traffic with all that work and all those men. It was destined to end this way. Senor goes the same thing they said about Swift. Swift played. This kid doesn't play. Why in the world do you make, hey guys, at the end of the day, who gives a shit about Nakobe Dean? You need a linebacker. I don't care about the kid's name on the back of his jersey. I don't fall in love with this. I do what Howie does. I fall in like with him. Next. Need another guy. More reliable guy. No one cares. That kid has no equity. Big fan, Sills. Before season, you touted Purdy as Brock Turdy, saying he's not the guy. I did. Also said Jalen will never throw. Okay. Your thoughts now. Sean, the reason why I said Jalen Hurts will never throw for 4,000 yards was because last year he threw for 400 and I think it was 35 attempts. No quarterbacks throwing for 4,000. They've upped that, obviously. Okay? And they've increased the volume. He's on pace for almost 600 passing attempts. So obviously more attempts, and that's why the turnovers are there instead of 6. I went by the math. Plus missing games. And we'll see, by the way, Sean, we'll see if he still plays 17 games this year. I made that comment, too, at the beginning of the year, Sean. I do not believe Jalen Hurts plays 17 games. Now, if they sit him because they've wrapped up home field, that doesn't count. I'm talking about being hurt. I don't believe he's going to play 17 games. He hasn't yet. And he's hurt right now in the middle of the season. He's hurt earlier now than he was a year ago. Now, maybe this bye helped him. We'll see. Okay? At the end of the day, we'll see if Jalen, for the first time in his NFL career, plays a full season. That hasn't happened yet. Okay? First for everything. And Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has saved John Lynch's job because the last player taken in the draft is turning out to be a functional quarterback for them and making plays. Okay? We can only hope. Yeah. You're asking Jalen Hurts. Well, actually, you're not asking Jalen Hurts. But that's why your run game's suffering. Your run game is suffering because don't you remember, you guys, I know you won't remember what I said after New England. And everybody on my channel and everybody around Philadelphia didn't want to give the attention that I gave it. I thought Jalen Hurts in that New England game was apprehensively sliding prior to contact. And I said, boy, I think I even mentioned it to Tone. After week 1, I went, man, he's surely getting down before contact. There was a preconceived notion this year not to have him run the ball in any way, shape, or form. Jalen's had to run this year out of necessity. There's been, how many design plays do you think that they've run with him this year so far? 40? Maybe? Last year, he was a focal point of that run game. You've not replaced $2,000 and 25 touchdowns. You haven't in 2 guys. You just haven't. And that's why you're more finesse this year. You just haven't. You think the Eagles are making a conscious decision to sacrifice Hurst's impact on the run game to make sure that it, yes. Absolutely. They'd rather be more finesse this year and have more turnovers and deal with the turnovers as long as they're winning. That would change, I think, if they started losing. They would go back to what they're comfortable doing. Remember in that, what was it, the Viking game, Tone? When Lane went like this, and I forget what game that was, where he went, let's go. And they ran the ball the entire rest of the game. Sills, 2-6 is the highlight of my day. Thank you, man. I think that's really cool, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. I personally think if the Eagles had a worse record right now, I personally think that football team would go back and revert back to what they do best, and that's run. Okay. Do I think they turn them loose in the playoffs? I would. I think, again, I think it has a lot to do with this list here. I think if you're in the AFC and you're taking on quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis like the other guys are, and you're taking on Josh Dobbs, Sam Howell, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, and the rest of these guys, I think you're more apt to play that style of football, saving them. I think if you have to line up on a weekly basis and go Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Stroud, I don't think you have any margin for error there. That's why some of those teams wobble over in the AFC. Nobody's going to wobble if you're a good team in the NFC, unless you have injuries, because you don't have anybody to fear. You think Jalen Hurts fears any quarterback in the NFC? Maybe Jared Goff? You can get beat on any given Sunday in the AFC because of the quarterback play. C.J. Stroud showing you that. Wilson's back in the conversation again. Thoughts on Watson being done for the year? I think it's atrocious on what the medical staff in Cleveland has done to him. He was telling you the whole year his shoulder was hurt. He had structural damage. They didn't believe him. You toted out a head football coach who made asinine comments about him saying, we cleared him, and now he's ready to play. Well, he wasn't. Now he has emergency surgery because your doctors have malpractice. But because you paid him $230 million, you let the public believe, my fault, that he was a worm and didn't want to play and didn't want to play for his team. That you cleared him. Of course you cleared him. You cleared him because the owner, Jimmy Haslam, put $250 million into his pocket and wanted a return on investment. Instead, you ran your season into the ground. Congratulations. And you almost ran your quarterback into retirement. How dumb can you be in Cleveland? You are just the dumbest organization on the planet. You have done nothing right since that franchise was put back in Cleveland. It's been a train wreck. How many quarterbacks have they had in Cleveland since the franchise was given the team back? 50? Okay? They damn near convinced the public to bully him to play. They did. And I'm guilty of that. Shame on me. I know better, too, never to trust coaches or medical staff people. I know better. I totally know better. Man, guy played, shot up ankle. Hey, get this. This guy's playing with structural damage against the Ravens. On the road, goes 14 of 14, beats them. He went for an MRI on his ankle. You know what the doctor said? They checked his shoulder out and said, you need emergency surgery. You have structural damage. He went in for his ankle. He didn't go in for his shoulder. And the Cleveland Browns, on top of the sexual assault, made him go, oh, he's just a rich punk who's entitled. Shame on us. Shame on me more than anything. I know better. I'll never do that again. I will never take an organization's word over a player again. I don't know how I did that. I just don't know how I did that. I never trust coaches. They always lie. Shit, Sirianni is a pathological liar on Wednesday coaches meetings about how they happy with the run game, happy with Brian Johnson's play calling. That was my call. I mean, they're all pathological liars. The only guy who's not a pathological liar is Belichick, because he doesn't tell you anything. All of them lie. Shit, college coaches are more notorious. Got to tell the truth. And get this. What's crazy is the media is not owed anything. They think they are really part of the game. They're not. You're a witness to the game. Everything you know about football was taught to you by someone. You never played it. And by the way, I'm not talking about playing like at the NFL level. I'm just talking playing bitty football. You don't have to have played at that level to know the game. But you had to have at least had a jock strap on. They led us to believe that Sean Watson was soft. That's my take on that. Now, I will give Barb, that's true too. You know how I know the Eagles take care of their players? Look at their cafeteria. You can always tell what an organization thinks of its players. Look at the cafeteria. Look at the cafeteria and look at the showers in the locker room and how it's kept. If it's immaculate and you don't have staph infections like you did in Cleveland a decade ago, you should know better. Cleveland had, remember all those players caught staph infections because they weren't cleaning the stalls because it cost them too much money? Or look at Arizona, considered the worst kept organization when it came to weight rooms and cafeterias. I believe that the Eagles take care of their guys. Look at the cafeteria. They got chefs in there morning, noon, and night. You get quality meals. You get gourmet meals, which means this. You probably get medical attention. That's the best on the planet when it comes to team doctors. You're allowed to have second opinions without anybody giving you shit. You know, organizations don't want you to have second opinions because, again, the owner wants you to get on the field. I think Jeffrey Lurie looks at his players and he looks at his players as people instead of commodities. I think 90% of the owners look at them as commodities and cattle. There, can I say cattle? Is that okay? Because I don't want to say the other thing because some of you would get bent. So is cattle okay? Okay. I think some of them, that's how they look at you. I mean, right. They serve filet mignon. They serve lobster. They have gourmet meals. You can always tell by an organization on how well they feed their players for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or snacks, or how their team, when they're on the road. Is it a first-class hotel that you stay in? Is it first-class food you're served? Are there chefs on the road with you? You would think organizations in the NFL do that. They don't do that. They'd rather cater something in. It's cheaper. Okay? That's the only way you convince a guy like Kelsey and Fletch to keep coming back. The Eagles treat their guys. That's right. That's right. You're not coming back to an organization that doesn't care about players or doesn't treat them right, have the top-notch weight rooms on the planet. We'd be willing to take pay cuts. Got to remember something. Brandon Graham could have went to – you know what? Now I know why Brandon Graham didn't go to Cleveland. And the only reason he probably thought about going to Cleveland was because Andrew Berry was there. And I'm sure Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski walked into that Cleveland Browns organization and said this, holy shit, we got a lot of work to do here. Jonathan Gannon must be like on a different planet in Arizona right now compared to where he's come from. I couldn't believe this. When I went from the University of Miami to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, do you know our press room was a mobile home? Our weight room was incredibly awful. Our lockers were terrible. I thought for sure that when I went to the NFL, it was going to be first. It was a downgrade. Then when I went from the Bucs to the Cowboys, I went from the Cowboys to the Fountain Blue. Everything immaculate. 3 helmets. My locker had my name on it. Things that I'd accomplished. Everything. Jerseys, shoes, everything all packed up, clean. We had a training room that went for miles. We had a training facility that I've never seen anything like it. Outdoor, indoor, tubs, everything. Food, chefs, incredible meals. I used to take my girlfriend, now my wife, and we had, get this, Coach Landry, when I first got there, we had family night or family day, family time, like around 12:30. Your wife or your family or your girlfriend or whatever could come over and you can have lunch together. Then you go out back to meetings and out to practice. Okay. That's how the Cowboys treated you. I never seen Detroit kind of went back to being in between the Bucks and like, it wasn't the best facility because it was at that old Pontiac Stadium. That's where their facility was at the old Pontiac. Hey, from where the Eagles have come from what I hear they have now at the NovaCare Center, my God almighty, you would have not believed how poorly the Philadelphia Eagle players were treated until Jeffrey Lurie bought that team. Nobody would ever have thought that Philly's lockers or their weight room or where they trained that thing was a shithole. I went down there when you guys brought me in. When you guys brought me in for me to potentially be signed, I couldn't believe what a shithole. It was worse than the Bucks. This was during Buddy's time. I walked down in there. They had these cages like they were in prison. I'm like, what's this? Not that that's a big, but it tells you a little bit about how they think of their players. If the Eagles had the wrong ownership, we would have easily become the Bears. The Bears. Bears have had 3 teams since 1963. 61 years, the Bears have had 3 teams. I don't know what they're even rooting with. Okay? I don't even know what they're rooting. Yeah. And Cleveland, they're doctors. Do you trust those doctors now if you're a player and you get hurt in Kansas City? How about the way they mishandled the Nick Chubb stuff? Where's the Players Association for player protection? Man, we're so bad. We're so bad. This is what I talk to you about all the time. Don't look, and to Barb's point, it's not every organization. The Rooneys don't treat people like that. Like Barrett just said, they serve fish on Fridays. They're a very religious organization. Roman Catholics. They when you're a Steeler and they draft you, it's like being in a mob. They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to go, no matter where you're drafted. Last round, second round, first pick. They don't want you to go. I don't know if I've ever told you the story of Rocky Blyer. Rocky's a friend of mine. I don't know how many people. Hey, Tom. Hey, Yale. How about this? How about this as a guy with distinguished credentials? Rocky Blyer's got 4 Super Bowl rings, a silver star, and a Purple Heart, and a Bronze Star because he served in Vietnam. He went to Notre Dame. He blew part of his foot off. The Rooneys had drafted him before he went to Vietnam. He came back. He couldn't walk. He said to Mr. Rooney, you know what? I'm going to do everything in my power to play again. They hit him. They had him on IR. They did it for 2 years. Do you know, 3 years later, he and Franco Harris became one of the only backfields to have 2 guys go over 1,000 yards as 2 running backs. That's what the Rooneys do. They invest in people. Not a lot of people do that because he had character. That's the kind of organization you want to work for. People who buy into you, people who trust you, and you giving into it. That's why, again, Jalen Hurts surrendered to the process in Philly where Carson Wentz couldn't. You know why? Can I tell you why? I thought about this 2 nights ago. Carson Wentz felt betrayed by the process between Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts. He felt betrayed. Jalen Hurts bought in to the environment, to the coaching. Nothing was given to him, but he bought into it and surrendered to it. These guys are going to take me where I need to go. Carson Wentz couldn't do that. 2 things happened to Wentz. 3 things. He got hit, hurt, concussed. He felt they betrayed him there. He felt they betrayed him with Foles. He felt they betrayed him with Jalen. He felt they weren't loyal to him. Why should he be loyal to them? That's how that thing totally imploded. And then when Doug surrendered, it was over. And it's affected him to this day. He felt betrayed. I don't know if he's wrong, but you got to be mentally tougher than that, especially when you're making $38 million. Okay? When you're making $38 million, you got to overcome that kind of shit. You can't allow yourself to be swallowed up like that because the environment's not conducive to you. People in character and leaders are defined by adversity, not front runners. How are you defined will define you when you lose, not win. Winning doesn't, it's funny. People think winning defines you. Winning defines a perception of you, but the inner character in you is defined by losing because it shows us. I think there's more of a strength in losing and showing your character in loss than in winning. Anybody can be a front runner and celebrate winning. You know how many people could take a loss and use it as fuel for you to be able to get better? You get better because you lose, not because you win. I've seen a lot of that. There's dudes, man, that you're like this. This guy got beat the shit up. He got talked so much shit on. Look at Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is the quintessential guy who, if you don't know his personality, how many teams has he been on now? 3? How many teams is Jimmy Butler? If you don't know his personality, okay, right? You don't know his personality. You can't coach that kid. When the Eagles were 2-5, Hurts could have went into a shell. He embraced the challenge and the process. Butler's been on 4 teams. Well, let me put it to you this way. You know why Jimmy Butler is where he is? Look at the environment he's in now with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. By the way, I think Eric Spoelstra, top 3 coaches in the NBA, maybe top 3 coaches in sports. I've never seen anything like it. Jimmy Butler, you see him and Spoelstra on the sidelines last year? You see them guys almost get into a fist fight? They started barking at one another. You know how many coaches can't handle that? And players? Those 2 guys almost came to blows. Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley love that. How many coaches in sports can deal with that? None. Butler's in the perfect place, the perfect time in his career. You guys couldn't handle him. You guys went with the talent versus leadership. That's been a problem with Josh Harris, though. His entire ownership is gambling on the wrong guy. James Harden, Ben Simmons, Doc Rivers, Elton Brand. Go down the list. Pat Riley invests in winners. That's why he could take a G League team to the NBA Finals 2 of the last 4 years. I know Pat Riley. One of the reasons, hey, get this. Do you actually think LeBron James is LeBron James today if he doesn't have the experience in Miami with Riley? How much of an impact do you think Pat Riley and that organization down there with the Heat had on the championship mode for LeBron James moving forward? How much of an impact do you think that had on him winning that game in that series versus the Golden State Warriors when they're down 3-1? Any impact? Never invest in the horse. Always invest in the jockey because he'll lead you to water. That's Riley telling me that. I asked him how he got LeBron James. This all goes into character and leadership. I asked him how he got LeBron James. Pat Riley had a satchel with 10 championship rings. And he poured it out. He goes, why don't you try one of them on? LeBron picked one up, put one on. He goes, you can have a couple of these. All you got to do is listen. All you got to do is listen. When Pat Riley got to become the coach, and I know Westhead was the coach in that 80 title team, but when he got there, he basically went to captain and told Kareem, you're our leader. Then he went to Magic and said, you got to make him believe he's the leader. Magic knew then he was the leader, like Steph Curry. There's a certain thing about an innate thing that Jalen has like that. Jalen's like Steph Curry. He's making everybody else feel on that Eagle team that they're as important as him and they're the leaders of the team. And that's why he doesn't blow up on the sidelines when AJ gets in his face, because he knows that's a reflection of everything else that's in that life. Dude, winning is such a close-ass thing in that game. Dude, everyone's good in the NFL. Everyone's good. The littlest things that you think is so stupid matter in that league because personalities and egos are so fragile. You have no idea the insecurity that's involved playing professional sports. You live your life insecure. It's the most unhealthiest thing you can do. But when you have an organization that believes in you, buys into you, trusts you, it's so cool to go to work. It is so cool for you to show up and go to work. Not every place is like that. I can tell you, man. You walk into a place. Hey, when I played for Jimmy and I walked in there, it was a thrill. I couldn't wait to get there. I couldn't wait to lift. I couldn't wait to eat. I couldn't wait to be a guys. I got to the Bucks. I said one of the most crippling things that cost me so much. In the middle of the season, when all these guys were quitting, I'd lost more games in 1 year than I had in my entire 8 previously. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I just wish I wasn't playing anymore. When I said that, it was over. I wasn't strong enough. Got to overcome that. You see, when I talk to you guys, I don't talk to you guys from a position of having, you guys always go like this to me. Says your career was this and that. And some of you know the truth why a lot of that had to do with my health. But at the end of the day, I come from a position of failure. Lost opportunities. I think I have more of a handle on it and success in that league than a lot of people do. Because I know the things that I look in the mirror every day and say this. Man, if I had done this, or had stepped over here, did this, shut my mouth. Okay? And that's why when I bring up the Jalen Carter situation, guys got mad at me. I'm not coming from a place of killing the kid. I'm coming from a place to try to help the kid. You have to remember something. All of you in here are fans of his, want success for him. The media doesn't. They want a story. Jalen Carter's success is not a story. Jalen Carter's failure is a story. Covering a guy being a good guy. Hey, How popular was Tim Duncan compared to covering Allen Iverson? Tim Duncan is one of the most celebrated. He has more championships than O'Neal. Greatest power forward in the history of the game. Was he interesting? No. He was no story. Showed up to work, won his championships, was one of the most successful players in the history of sports. Every time the Spurs got to the finals, we went, shit, not them again. Shit, not them again. Right? That's what you see with the Eagle. That's what the difference between the Eagles and the Browns and the Bears and the Cardinals is internal. It's not just about picking players. It's about picking the right people. Every year there's 300 players. Picking the right people. That's the trick. Is finding the right people. Hey, this guy runs a 40 versus this guy runs a 40. What separates them? Well, who is he? Who isn't he? What's adversity going to mean to him? Is this guy going to melt down? Do you know the number one? That's why the combines are overrated. Do you know the only thing that's really, in my opinion, worth the shit at those combines is the interview? The rest of it, congratulations. You're running fast 40. You're an NFL prospect. Okay. You're going to, hey, get this. Do you know how many 40-yard dashes you run after the combines in your NFL career after that? None. You will never run another 40 in your life. Do you know that? You think players run 40s every year for condition? They don't do any of that. They'll never run a shuttle drill. They'll never have a vertical jump. They'll never have any of that. They'll never run. You'll run bags. All you do is condition. Make sure you're in shape. You'll go through your drills like bag drills, and you'll go through pushing the sled and shit like that. That will always be there. You don't run 40s. I ran a 4.81. I never ran a 40 ever again after that. Well, unless I had to try out for somebody. Okay? But once I got to those teams, I never had to run again. 4.81 RTF at 292, my good friend. With a 28 vertical. Yes, sir. Okay? Keon goes, I always thought the combine was weird because football is a different game with pads on. Keon, me and Chris Spielman used to always say this. Why don't these guys run with shoulder pads on at the combines? Do all their drills in the gear that they're going to wear when they're playing? Why do I care if a guy runs a fast 40 without shoulder pads on? Why would I care? Hey, by the way, Greasy, not only did I run a 4.8, I benched 550. I had a 28 vertical. I had all the intangibles. Just so happens I got sick. Happens. One thing God gave me was the ability to be standing here. Okay? So, and I got a daughter now. It's important. Yeah, so, hey, Jordan Davis running that 4.7 at 334, whatever he was. I won't lie, that's probably one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Okay? I'll tell you who was like that too. Jason Pierre-Paul was like that. He was a freaky athlete like that too. Yep, greasy meningitis, man. Almost killed me. I was in a hospital for a month. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair, crutches. I went from a wheelchair to crutches. Took me about a month and a half. Biopsies. I was in a bag. Yeah, craziest thing you ever seen. Here's this guy that runs all that, did all that, and I was in a wheelchair. Like it was a pretty big wheelchair, and it was really fast actually. My wife used to take me, my girlfriend then. We used to go down to Dallas Medical, and my wife would go around the hallways, and we'd be racing around with other people. She dumped me a few times, but it's all good. Yeah. I want to look at some of the games for week 11. So let me take a timeout. We'll take a timeout now. Do I have time to do that? I got a little bit of time to do that. Okay, let's take a quick timeout. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.